All right. So again, you're not going to come into school to do the exam. You're going to do it online. And section A. So on the exam, you have 5 sections. 5 sections on the exam. Section A, section B, C, D, and E. In section A, you're going to have multiple choice questions. Then in section B, you're going to fill in the blanks where you have a statement and you're going to select the correct response. Section C is going to be true and false, and section D is matching, where you're supposed to match. And the last section, which is section E, you are going to have a writing activity. And so only one section that you'll do is some form of extended writing, which is the last section of the paper. I believe you will also be timed when you're doing the exam, and all students will not get the same question. So there's no way you can communicate with each other because you will be timed. So there's a timer that's going to be on the paper while you're doing it. Once you log in, there's a timer. And not everybody gets in the very same question. So you can't cheat, right? Across the board.
Sir, time for each question or each section?
I believe that it is going to be timer for the entire paper.
Sir, can you pause the time?
No.
Sir, what if your Wi-Fi kicks you?
If your wife have that problem, then they will pick it up because the teacher will
Maybe.
be there monitoring. So they will know
So
if
we're
they.
going to be on a Zoom call with you guys.
I'm not sure what the format is going to be for you.
Sir,
Go ahead for me, please.
sir, is the exam going to be on all three revolutions or whatever?
That's what I'm looking for. So far we would have covered 2 revolutions, right? In depth, which is first one we would have looked at is industrial rev, and the second is industrial rev, and the second American Revolution. So I know for the other groups that I teach, they are only being tested on what was done before the, 1 second, I have the exam here. Let us look at it, please. Almost there. Prendergast, you have a question? Brenna?
Yes, sir. I was asking two things. Well, no, one thing. I just wanted to know when we finish a question and we move on to like let's say our next page or whatever it is, will we be able to go back or no?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the system will go on Tuesday. I think the principal or so should give you some form of information on that. From what I'm seeing thus far, the only topics that coming on the exam is industrial and American Revolution. That's the only topics coming on the exam.
So, sir, can you tell
In,
us how many questions?
industrial and American Rev.
So, sir, can you tell us how many questions will be coming in multiple choice? Fill in the blanks. True or false?
25.
25 each.
Huh?
25 each.
So you have 25 questions that are going to be in multiple choice for section A. 1 second, please.
Sure, Brianna McKenzie is asking if you could let her into the meeting.
Brenna has internet problem, it seems, because each time I let her in, it continued to scroll around. I'm coming. I just did, but it is just. All right, ladies, so listen up now. All right, so on the exam, on your exam in, let us see here. Listen up now. So the three, so I just look at the paper and the three topics that going to be on the exam is one, industrial revolution, one industrial revolution, two, American Revolution, and three, the Haitian Revolution. So Haitian Rev is going to come on the exam right up until the causes.
Sir,
Yeah. So because I'm seeing question on Haitian Rev. Now, before I go to that, I'm going to show you the screen. I had a power cut early on, and it's taking a long time to open my stuff. I'm coming. I'm showing you the format of the exam. After I show you the format, then you'll ask the question. Because I spoke about the format already, and I'm going to post the format in the Google, what do you call it? The Google Classroom. So listen, ladies, as I said, the 3 topics coming on the exam is Haitian Rev, all right, American Rev, and Industrial Rev. Those are the 3 topics that you will be tested on in the exam. It seems that Bruce is having internet problems also.
So there isn't a lot on the Haitian Revolution, right? Because we just
No,
started.
you're not going to have a lot of questions on the Haitian Rev. Most of the questions will be from what you call it? Industrial and American. It's about 5 questions I'm seeing on the Haitian Rev. It's about five questions.
Sir, 5 questions for what?
I'm seeing about five questions on the Haitian Rev.
Sir, could you tell us how many questions for each section now? Like
Yeah,
how you
that's
said.
what I'm doing. I'm opening the document. It's not like it's a very difficult exam, ladies. We now make it seem like it
Sir,
is
it sounds difficult to me. If it's 5 sections, that sound difficult to me.
Yes, sir. And you were laughing.
Exactly.
So
No,
you're
it's
saying
not.
that because you're the teacher and you know everything.
Exactly, sir. You're the
Exactly,
teacher
sir.
and you know it. We don't.
No, it's not difficult. Trust me. Trust me on this
Sir,
one.
trust is such a strong word in this situation because, sir, you just named 5 sections, sir, not 3.
I would worry
Not
about the
5.
girls who are in grade 11 because the girls are in grade 11. They are going to be tested on everything that they learned in grade 10 plus what they covered last term.
So that's their fault for picking history. So I would
Huh?
worry about them too.
Repeat?
So that's their fault for picking history if they know it was going to be that challenging.
No, it's not for only history, for every single subject.
Sir,
All
I
the
thought you were talking about history.
not only history alone, the students who are in grade 11, for everything that they would have learned in grade 10 plus 11, they will get on their exam math, English, history, any subject at all the subjects. Right? All the subjects they are going to be tested on. So your little exam is a little cheese. It's like Devanos ice cream. Little Devanos ice cream exam. It's not like an exam is dumpling, yam, dasheen with steamed fish.
Sir, Devon House ice cream exam?
Huh?
Did you just say it's a Devon House ice cream exam?
It's
Devon House
Devanos
ice cream is expensive, sir. So the exam is
Devanos ice cream exam. Is
sir, I don't
Devanos
think
Okay, I run it salt and pepper, mayonnaise and ketchup and watermelon and pineapple and lemon.
no the exam is Devanos ice cream. It's easy to melt
Just
away.
juice all day. What if he pees his pants?
Gabby, Mike.
Hot season.
And you're going to pass. All of you are going to pass. So don't worry about it.
pass as A or just pass. sir, you
You're
made
going
the exam seem so easy. It's not.
Exactly, sir. Sir, if I fail, just like, please don't be surprised. History is not equal.
You're not going to fail. No students is going to fail.
Sir, on
Okay,
a
sir.
scale from 1 to 10, how
So you
hard was
don't
the
know about
exam?
that.
Yeah.
Sir, I am not a historian and I don't know about history.
And you talk so much in class?
Sir, because I tried to participate since that's the only A I can get in this subject.
Not true. So ladies, look at the exam paper, the question, more exam paper, I go get myself in a problem. Look at the question. So section A, multiple choice, 25 questions, 25 marks. B, who am I, what am I, 10 marks, 10 questions from that section. It's fill in the blank, 10 marks. C, true and false, 10 marks, right? D, matching, 5 questions, 5 marks. And E, extended writing, 3 questions, 10 marks.
Sir, I have a question. What is it about that extended writing that it worth a whole 10 marks for 3 things?
The extended writing would ask you, because we want to see how you write. So, you know, writing usually give you some marks, and it is extended, but it is really like some short answers, responses. I think that is the correct term. Short answer responses.
Sir, this makes me want to cry.
Sir,
Go ahead for me.
sir, in the who am I section, are we going to get the words to like to put in? Or
You get the words and you fill in the correct.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, sir, that is so nice, sir. Thank you.
Sir, that's not nice. Are we talking about the people who invent the things?
All right. So ladies, I'm going to send you this document at the end of the class. So now we're going to go over and we're going to start to look at the Haitian Rev. Very important to look at the Haitian Rev because it's coming on the exam. All right, so we're going to start from here. Where it is. All right, so recap. There were many causes for the Haitian Revolution, right? Which one of the causes did we look at last class? So which one of the causes we look at last class? We look at one of the causes.
Division within the society.
So you said we look at divisions within the society. Yes, you are correct, but it was a broader one. Broader cause we look at.
The impact of the French Revolution.
Very good. So it is the impact of the French Revolution. Now, there are two effects of the Haitian Revolution, two effects of the French Revolution on this in the colony of Saint-Domingue. What are those two effects? Two effects. The student before would have mentioned one.
The division of the society.
So correct. So one of the effects of the French Revolution on the colony of Saint-Domingue is that it would have caused the society to be extremely divided, right? So that is one of the effects. Another, what ideas the French Revolution is going to plant in the minds of the people in Saint-Domingue? What, ladies?
Sir, all of the different classes wanted like they all wanted the same type of rights.
Yes, they wanted everybody wanted some level of rights. You are correct. But there are three terms that they usually use, which is some popular terms from the French Revolution that they adopted in the colony of Saint-Domingue. What are those three? One start with F.
Sir, can you repeat, please?
What's their freedom?
Correct. So the first one is freedom. So you are correct. What is the next one?
Rights and justice.
Wait, could you repeat the question?
The question I asked is, what were the ideas from the French Revolution that had an impact on Saint-Domingue?
Sir, liberty, fraternity, and equality.
Very good. So those were the ideas that had some impact on Saint-Domingue. Liberty, which is freedom, fraternity, and equality. Fraternity, brotherhood, equality, meaning everybody wants to be equal, and liberty, which is freedom. How is it that each group is going to, before we go to that, where it is? So the three groups in Saint-Domingue at this time would have been, the first group is the
Grand Blancs and the Petite Blancs.
The next one is the Petit Blanc.
And
Next,
the colored.
The colored, or we call them the mulattoes. And the next group is the
enslaved Africans.
Very good. So these are the different groups. So we know for sure that they are going to apply these terms to themselves. Freedom.
equality.
Liberty.
Sir, question, sir.
1 second. So these are the terms, what we call liberty, which is which is liberty. Same thing as freedom. Go ahead with your question.
No, sir. I said freedom, and then you said no liberty, and I was asking if they are not the same thing.
Oh, my bad. I didn't hear you clearly. Sorry about that. So freedom and liberty is the same. So freedom, liberty is the same. Brotherhood and equality. Brotherhood is fraternity, right? So these are three ideas from the French Revolution that is going to impact the colony of Saint-Domingue, and it's going to impact each of the groups. Now, how is it each group is going to claim some of these ideas? Grand Blanc. How did the Grand Blanc apply this to themselves? What they said they wanted? Freedom from who?
Freedom from France.
So they wanted freedom from France, meaning they wanted to govern themselves. What about the petit blancs? They wanted the same rights as who?
The rich
white.
Yes, so they want
whites.
some of the same rights as the grand blancs. What about the
Colored.
colored?
So they wanted the rights of the
What are
white.
the rights of the whites?
They wanted the rights of the
White.
whites. What about the enslaved people?
They wanted freedom.
They wanted freedom. And also they wanted to be equal. The coloreds also wanted to be equal with the whites, right? So they wanted equality. So all the groups, this is the impact of the French Revolution on the colony of Saint-Domingue. So what happened now is that, so look at the question, which one of the causes did we look at last class? One was that we look at the impact of the French Revolution. The French Revolution had two effects on the colony of Saint-Domingue. One, each group or each social group in Saint-Domingue applied the concept or apply the ideas of the French Revolution to themselves. The Grand Blancs wanted their freedom, wanted to govern themselves. They want freedom from France. The Petit Blancs want the same rights and privilege as the Grand Blancs. The colored wanted to be equal with the whites. And the enslaved said, listen, we need equal and we need to be freed. And so each group applied that to themselves. Another effect is that the society was very divided. It deepens the divide in the society because the African is against everybody, right? The colored is against the petit and the grand blanc. And even within these groups, the white, both groups are divided because the petit blanc said, listen, we want some of the same rights as you. So everybody in the society is divided. So causes. So one of the causes of the French Revolution is the impact of the French Revolution on Saint-Domingue. So that is one that we would have covered. We covered the impact, and we know the two ways in which they would have impact the French Revolution had impact on Saint-Domingue. Another cause for the Haitian Revolution is that the enslaved people in Saint-Domingue desire their freedom. So one of the cause is the impact of the French Revolution. The next cause is freedom, the desire for freedom. Africans, the enslaved Africans, which is this group here, they wanted their freedom. They desire the freedom. Freedom is something that is natural, very, very natural, something that you were born with. It is not something that was given to you. And so, because you were born as free beings, you have this desire from inside to always free yourself, right? And some of them had the experience as living as free people. And then coupled with that now, the French Revolution and the American Revolution use the whole idea about freedom, liberty. And so these Africans wanted freedom. And that is one of the main causes of any slave revolt. Freedom, the desire for freedom, the desire not to be enslaved anymore. So the first cause we looked at was, the first cause is, what is the first cause?
Desire to be free.
Revolution.
All right, so the first one is the impact of the
French Revolution.
Very good. And the second cause is the
Desire for freedom.
who wanted it to be freed?
The enslaved Africans.
The enslaved Africans. Now, one of the reasons why they wanted to be freed is because they were enslaved. Another reason is that as slaves, they lived under a law which is called the Code Noir or Black Code. Code Noir or Black Code. Right? So that was the name of the slave law. And so their entire life, their movement, their entire being, how they work, how they live, was governed by the Black Code or the Code Noir, this French slave law. And so this law took away from them their freedom, and they wanted their freedom. They desire their freedom. All right? So that is one of the reasons why the enslaved Africans, that is one of the cause for the Haitian Revolution. Another cause is Black numerical superiority. Meaning, who want to explain that? Black numerical superiority.
The blacks outnumber the whites.
Very well. The blacks outnumber the whites. Very good. And so that was another cause. White was a cause because the whites had 20,000 people in Sandamar. The colored was 30,000. The blacks were between 450,000 and some historians said 500,000. So they outnumbered them significantly. And so when the colored and the whites were fighting for different rights, and both the Grand Blancs and the Petit Blancs had their rival or problems, and when the whites had problem with France governing them, they said, but look, the blacks are saying, the Africans are saying, whites fighting against white, coloreds fighting against white. We as blacks, we have the majority of the number. So guess what? Why are we going to sit here and pretend as if their house is not on fire? The mere fact their house is on fire, we need to free ourselves. We have the majority of the numbers. So it gave them the confidence. It gave them some form of, numbers gave them some form of power because they had the majority.
Sir?
Go ahead for me.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, why is the black people separate from the colored people? Because aren't black people still colored?
For me, I agree with you, but the blacks and the colored are, we will consider them to be the same, but at the same point, same time, the blacks were not mixed with any whites. The colored were mixed. So,
sir, would Asians be classified as colored?
Not in this society at this time.
Oh.
At this time, the mix was between black and white. And so because they were mixed and they had a different skin complexion, they were ranked higher. Because
so like the mulatto than those people?
Yes, they were considered to be the mulatto. All right. Go ahead for me, Prendergast.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Sir, I was just saying, based on movies and some books that you would read, you would also read that most times the black people were sold out by their own people, so that tends to be why most of the time they get captured.
That is one of the arguments, but when you do CSEC history, you will learn a little bit more about Africa. That is one thing that the movies, remember the movies are created by whites, so they want to perpetuate that narrative or that story. It is not entirely true. True to some extent, but not the full story.
Okay, sir.
All right? So they had the numbers. So if you're writing in the exam and they should ask you about the black numerical superiority, say that majority of blacks in the society were Africans. About majority of the blacks, majority of the population was Africans. And because of that, it gave them the confidence and the power to uprise or to fight against the system of slavery. That's a cause. Now, in the society, you had two types of slaves, right? Or enslaved people. You had the Creole slaves and the African-born slaves. Creole slaves, African-born slaves, right? So you had two types of slaves in slave society. Creole slaves are those who were born in the Americas. So if you're born in Jamaica, you're a Creole slave. If you're born in Trinidad, you're a Creole slave. If you're born in the US, you're a Creole slave. If you were born in Sondama, a Creole slave. Born in Cuba, Creole slave. Another enslaved group was the African born slaves. So those who were born in West Africa. So you had two groups of enslaved people, Creole slaves and the African born slaves, right? The thing is, I want to ask the question, why were African born slaves more likely to rebel than Creole slaves?
Therapy.
The question is on the screen.
Sir, what do you mean by Creole slaves?
So you never, somebody explain Creole slaves.
Creole slaves are the slaves that were born in like Jamaica, the Caribbean countries, and African-born slaves are the ones who were brought from West Africa.
Thank you very much. Why were African-born slaves more likely to rebel?
Sir, Tara is typing in the chat.
Check the chat, sir.
Somebody read it for me, please.
So she's basically answering the question.
Okay, who else want to answer the question?
Me, sir.
Go ahead for me.
Sir, because that's not where they're from, like being brought from one continent to another. They were most likely to rebel because they were triggered.
Sir, Tara said that because they were there longer. She said it in the chat.
All right, very good. But there is something deeper. What about African born, which is different from Creole born? There's something that is very different.
So they were not from there?
Yes, but those who in Africa would have known what?
Freedom.
They would have known freedom. They would have lived as free people. They would have had their own government. They had their own economy. Nobody had a whip over them. But the Creole borns, they had no idea of freedom. They were born in slavery. They grew up in slavery. They lived slavery and they defended slavery. So Creole born, go ahead for me, Mackenzie.
Sir, so basically saying that the African-born slaves are most likely to rebel because they know that what is going on is wrong, and the Creole slaves are used to being slaves, so they don't understand what it is to. So they wouldn't have any idea of rebelling.
Yes, they had no idea of fighting, the Creole slaves. They had no idea of freedom. They were born in the Caribbean. They grew up as slaves. They had no idea And so they accepted their reality. But the African borns didn't accept their reality. They consistently fought for their freedom. And a lot of people were very scared of having a lot of African-born slaves. In fact, in the Caribbean, we had much more African-born slaves than Creole slaves. In the United States, they had mostly Creole slaves. And that is one of the reasons why in the US, they had little slave rebellion. In the Caribbean, we had a lot of slave rebellions. Notice how we are different from, not really different, but if you realize that, I'm not going to go there. All right? So back to this point is that majority of the enslaved population in Sodom at the time were from Africa. They were African born. And because they were African born, they knew freedom, so they are going to fight for their freedom. And most of them were trained in the military. In fact, this historian by the name of John Thornton, he said that African soldiers in the Haitian Revolution, the statistics show that 60 to 70% of the enslaved people in Saint-Domingue were born in Africa. This is a serious problem. Serious problem. Because if you have almost 70% of your slave population that is born in Africa, they had experience of freedom. They are not going to accept it. While in the other colonies, most of the enslaved people were not African born. They were born in the colony. So this gave them an edge. So if we should look again, so one causes, one, the impact of the French Revolution on Saint-Domingue. Two, the desire for freedom. Three, Blacks had the numerical advantage, Black numerical superiority. Four, African-born enslaved. Most of the enslaved people in Saint-Domingue, they were born in Africa. And so they were more likely to rebel than the Creole slaves. So that was a cause. Another cause, and we cannot ignore this cause, is the harsh treatment.
Excuse me, sir, could you go back up, please?
You're moving very fast.
I think that's
Sir, that's it. I was just looking at the last one.
This one?
No, sir. When you were talking about the causes, I was looking at the last one.
Okay. So you are through now?
Yes, sir. You can go back to whatever.
All right. So another cause for the Haitian Revolution is the harsh treatment, right? The harsh treatments that Blacks would have gone through. And so if somebody's going to put yourself in the minds of the enslaved people, if somebody's beating you and somebody's treating you badly, you're going to want to sit down and accept it. Would you?
Sir, I don't think you need to put your mind in that position, because even thinking about it, you would be like, oh, that is not good. So, saying that, putting it in that place, even persons who are white don't necessarily put themselves in the position, but basically thinking about it and hearing, seeing, learning about how they were treated. You can say, oh, I would do this, I would have done the same thing in their position.
All right, good point. So they would have gone through some very horrible treatment, right? harsh treatment. So the harsh treatment of the enslaved people led them to rebel. So not only was the French Revolution had an impact, not only did they had a desire to be free, not only did they had the numerical advantage, not only did most of them were born in Africa, but also the harsh treatments led them to rebel. The harsh treatment. And so we are going to look at some of the harsh treatments. This is a enslaved person being burned, right? It is a pot of oil here, and did something wrong. He was lashed with the whip, and then he was thrown in a pot of oil, right? So that was how they would have punished them. And because they would have punished them like that, these horrible treatment, they didn't want to relive it. And so they wanted to be free. Somebody, could you read this for me, please?
The least fault.
Go ahead,
Melanie, you read.
Okay, for the least fault, the slaves received the harshest punishment. In 1685, the Negro Code authorized whipping, and in 1702, one colonist, a marquis, thought any punishment which demanded more than 100 blows of the whip was serious enough to be handed over to the authorities. Later, the number was fixed at 39, then raised to 50. But the colonists paid no attention to these regulations, and slaves were not unfrequently whipped to death. The slaves received the whip and with more certainty and regularity than they received for their food. Mutilations were common, limbs, ears, and sometimes the private parts. Their masters poured burning wax on their arms and hands and shoulders, emptied the boiling cane sugar over their heads, burned them alive, roasting them on slow fire, filling them with ground powder, and blew them up with a match.
So thank you very much, Parkinson. So if with mutilation, this term right here means to cut off. So they are cutting off their limbs, their ears, their private parts. They are burning them in oil, right? They are whipping them severely. They are not giving them enough food. In fact, some of the harsh treatments, let us go to this one here. They, other than pouring burn axe, they are making them eat their own excrement and to drink their own urine. These were some of the punishment. Even pregnant females also would have gone through this type of punishment. So whether you are pregnant or not, you would have gone through some of these punishments. So these harsh punishments that they would have gone through, cause them to desire their freedom or cause them to rebel against the system of slavery. So if we look at this, causes the impact of the French Revolution, the desire for freedom, their numerical superiority, African-born enslaved, the harsh treatments that they would have gone through, and the next one is the role of their religion. The role of their religion, voodoo, unites them together as African people. So they made oath and they believe that the ancestral spirits would assist them in overthrowing the whites. So the role of their religion was also a cause. They believe in their religion, that their religion would help them to overthrow the whites. And the next one, another cause is the leadership. They had excellent leadership. And so Mrs. Brown Chambers told me that she gave you guys an activity to look at the different persons, leaders of the slave revolt, the Haitian revolt. And so ensure that you do your readings on each of these leaders. And because of their excellent leadership, it gave them the power to organize and to fight against the whites. So these were all the causes of the Haitian Revolution. Any other question? Any comments?
I really send this in the classroom.
All right, I will upload it in the classroom.
Thank you, sir.
All right, ladies, do well on the exam. See you again the end of February.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye. And those for my form room, I'm going to close the session and I'm going to return so you can rejoin from a form class.
Sir, Brenna Mackenzie was asking if harsh treatment was the worst.
Could be. It was terrible. The treatments were terrible.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right.